listening. Another episode
with Journey with Michael and Ryan. I think I should actually do the introduction today because essentially you are a guest on the Journey with Michael and Ryan podcast.
So let's just reframe that.
Welcome everybody to the Journey podcast with Michael and Ryan. I am Ryan Bennett, and today we have a very special guest, Michael Craig Wilson. Recently announced to be on the Married at First Sight New Zealand.
Married at First Sight New Zealand. Yeah, that's it. So there's a few podcasts back. I've mentioned, I was away for 6 weeks at the end of last year.
Yeah.
So that's where I went. Obviously, contractually couldn't talk about it or anything, but it's been launched that I'm on the show last week. So now it's quite fitting to just be able to talk about it. Obviously, keeping it really opaque, I won't share just because of the integrity of it. Like, why ruin the magic of people who actually enjoy watching it?
Totally. We're not here to spoil anything. It's really just a deep dive into you and what was going on in your life before actually going on to the show.
Yep.
And why you did it.
Yeah.
We'll save the rest and for the the producers to essentially describe what happened for you, with you, and to you.
Absolutely. I think we'll end up doing another one at some point because we can talk about the actual events that happened. But I think this is a really prevalent place to start because it all intertwines with how we show up in the world, what we do, moving into experiences, and something that still sits in my mind that you said actually was quite cool. You were like, man, do you know what? There's probably like less than 1,500 people worldwide that have gone through this particular experience. And I thought, that's fucking cool.
It's unique.
It's very unique, So I got launched last week. They put out the contestants.
I wouldn't contestants.
No, you're not
winning anything.
You're not winning money.
Except for love.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they put the other cast on, so they launched us, so we can talk about it now. It's been interesting watching that flow, just to turn that spigot on a little bit and just seeing how people hold kind of one view on the situation and this and that, and it's going to be a fun dance to move into.
Totally, man. How are you feeling? Well, how were you feeling when it got released? Because obviously they gave you some guidance that it was going to be, but then to see the TV and the ads and everything popping up, like, how was that feeling for you?
Honestly, like the lead up to it, I was not feeling any indifferent. Like, I wasn't afraid, I wasn't excited, I wasn't fearful. I mean, I was a little excited because it's like, oh, something's happening. But honestly, we've just been that busy that I haven't been able to fully drop into everything that's going on. It's like, oh, that's happening, great. But it's just kind of adding it into the piece of my life. But it's coming. Like, even just on my personal page where I put one photo up and of the marketing, and there's even people that have gone to a story, they've highlighted a quote in that story, found my personal page, written it on there, and gone, oh, for fuck's sake. I'm like, wow, like what takes that somebody to go and do all that and then come on to find a personal page and add it? But it's okay, I'm here for it all.
He's here for it all, totally.
Yeah.
But I mean, amongst that one interesting comment, like, it's just lots of support. Lots of support, man. Because there's a lot of people out there that do support you and want you to win and want you to find love and like think it's awesome that you're putting yourself out there in this way, but the critics will always be the loudest, like, because that's just the world we live in, keyboard warriors that are always going to challenge a belief. And it's like, I mean, do they have the courage and confidence to put themselves out there? Probably not. But I mean, that takes nothing away from them or nothing away from the experience for you. It's just as is life.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what you do. If you're going to start growing your awareness into something that you're always going to have people who are going to try and not ultimately tear you down, but have their viewpoint on it, or whatever. I'm like, cool, that's okay. Like, what am I going to do? I'm going to go and try and defend myself to everybody. It's like, fuck, no way. It's
about, there was one really, really, really good comment when they first brought the show out from
it was
from
on
a guy.
the TV3 Facebook page.
Yeah.
Basically, it was, what was it? It was, oh God, it looks like Vikings RuPaul Drag Race. I haven't replied to any comments, but I actually replied to that one. I was like, do you know what?
Touché.
That's comment of the day. That was great.
Totally, man. Well, let's get into it, man. Like, why? Let's just like go into the why. Like, why is it that you went on the show in the first place?
Yeah, so ultimately we were driving back from an expo, and I got a call from Warner Brothers, and they said, hey, this is so-and-so from Warner Brothers. Hey, we're doing a Married at First Sight, and are you single? And I said, well, yeah, I am. And they said, oh, look, we think you'd be great for the show, and da-da-da. And anyway, so I said, can you jump on a call, when you get home? I think we're only about an hour away. So about an hour and a half later, I jumped on a video call, on a Zoom call when we got home, and went through it. And that's, like a week later, I signed the contract and we're in. But the opportunity was there. And firstly, for me, it was, do you know what? I'll put my trust into people who, ultimately do this and pick. You go through psychological exams and tests and things like that, and and they see different, deeper level parts. And I was like, do you know what? Cool. Let's see if these people can pair me up with somebody on a deeper level without me actually knowing. And I was really excited about that. I thought, like that's my number one prerogative going to this, was ultimately meeting someone and being paired at a different level that I haven't been paired with before.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So it's like letting someone else essentially choose for you based on the information that they've gathered, based on what they feel is going to be right, based on the connection that they want to create, right?
Yeah.
Which is beautiful. But I mean, they didn't just call you randomly, right? Like, you applied for the show.
Yep. Went through. So it all started, I think there was an advert for it many months before then. Quite a few people tagged me in it. You were one of them. Tina was one of them. My sister was one of them. And then ultimately it was just like, okay, yeah. There was just this feeling in my stomach. It was actually the same feeling of when I applied for The Apprentice a few years ago. It was just like this intuition, this knowing of like, you do this, you'll get on.
Yeah.
And then it's like, cool, here's a bigger existence, here's a bigger exposure, and there's the possibility that these people will pair me up with somebody who's amazing.
Yeah, beautiful.
And so that's how it came to, which is great. So yeah, ultimately just stepping into releasing the control to somebody else. It was like that was really big for me. I was like, all right, here you go. I'll do my exams, do my tests, and go and do your thing. And so that was it there. And then after I landed on the show, and started to go through the process, and they were like, okay, cool, yep, you're going to be on. We've got a match for you and a pairing. And then it kind of like dawned. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm going to be on Married at First Sight. I after I finished doing The Apprentice a few years ago, I was like, I would never do an emotional reality love dating show, like no chance, But ultimately, that was a few years ago, and you move through more and more of myself and work, and when the opportunity came, I was like, yeah, let's go whole hog into this.
Yeah, totally, man. Well, where do you think you were at with yourself? I mean, people could probably piece it together based on listening to the podcast.
Yeah.
Before that time and before you disappeared and dissipated.
Yep.
But like, where were you in your own journey for love at that point where you applied?
I was trying. I was really trying. There was, since like the second episode of this podcast, which is, a year and a half, 2 years ago. Well, a year and a half,
yeah.
Now, that was a huge awakening of seeing the patterns of my own destruction in relationships that I really had to sit with and move through and feel that pain. I mean, you saw that, you helped me through that.
They were all listening.
Yeah. and then it was, there were just many partnerships over the course of that 12 months, 18 months of all right, like I got into this. Great, it feels really good, and then ultimately they wouldn't work out for one reason or another, or maybe I would be like, hey, look, no, this isn't for me, and I'm very upfront in my dealings with people, and so everybody knows where they stand with me, and there were different women, different aspects, different things I've learned about myself, but I was really trying, like I got to a point after really going through that grief of that past relationship that was really deep and dear, and I mean we're still dear friends with her, to this day, and I think we'll always will be. And really showed me like, oh yeah, like that's what love feels like. It was warm, it was inviting, it was cozy. But reflecting now, ultimately, I wasn't ready to receive that at that time.
Here we go. Ooh.
So yeah, so I was on the search for it, and so different partnerships, different things, different modalities, different movements, different way of relating as well, and kind of more open relating relationships, and wanting to move into that and feeling it. I was just not experimenting isn't the right word, because
exploring what was right for you.
Exploring, that's correct. That's the best word. Exploring what was feeling right for me.
Totally.
But ultimately still in that search for that deep monogamous relationship
100%.
Partner.
Well, I mean, you said it in the article, Michael. You're just a big teddy bear.
I am just a big teddy bear.
you know. So
I love love.
The big teddy was just looking for love. And you were just trying to explore and see what felt right and what you like ultimately had a taste of before, right?
Yeah.
But then realizing that you don't go into a relationship to replace something you once had, but it's like you had a barometer of what it feels like, and you were just trying to explore and try to not replicate, but to re-experience that feeling through others.
Yeah,
and also through yourself as
absolutely.
well.
But just craving deeper and deeper each time as well. I love the depth of life. I love the depth of everything that I do, and it's just being met in that. And I know I'm a quirky, odd, weird human, but I embrace that now, And so sometimes, like every human, I'm a little bit more challenging to deal with and difficult. But it was just ultimately, I'm like, no, like my person will accept all of me.
Yeah, totally.
And I will accept all of her.
Yeah, totally.
And there will be the ability to communicate anything and everything at such an open level. And so I knew what I was searching. It was more of a feeling. It was a feeling that I was searching. I was like, I got it. And even some of the partnerships that I was in, and even your wife, she'd be like, Mike, why did you in that one? I'm like, because I know, like it just wasn't a feeling. I can foresee things. And for me, in my own integrity, how can I carry things on when I'm not fully invested into it, because that's what I'm looking for.
Totally. Yeah,
so that's been my journey leading up to this, and when the opportunity came, I was single. I didn't have any lovers, didn't have any partners, didn't have anything. So it all kind of divinely timed that way. And then ultimately just jumping on from that phone call on, it was like a week later we were in filming, basically. So it wasn't even any time to think, but I think that's how they keep that, they roll that. Once they've got you on, it's like,
straight in. You're still fully in the emotion of it all. The roller coaster has just taken off.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was it. It was like, great, let's move into this experience. I'm on my search right now. Let's try another way of exploring the search and put it into the hands of somebody.
Totally. They're professionals, essentially.
And,
right?
They had John Aitken there. I mean, he's been doing the Australian one for 11 years or 12 years or something. Like, regardless of what you say about the guy, like he's still got that experience of moving through all of these with people and this experiment ultimately. And then they brought on this lovely lady, Jo. So she's a sex therapist here in New Zealand, and she was really, really beautiful. I really enjoyed her. I really enjoyed just her reflections. Like, it was really great, and I follow her on social media now, and I can see we kind of speak the same language and different things. She's kind of more on like the psychological counselling level, but we're all here to try and help people. Totally. So it was really nice getting both of their reflections during the experiment as well. And that brings me to like the other part of why I dropped into going into this was deeper shadow work in a public forum where I had no place but to be able to reflect and have things reflected at me that will then ultimately get put out into, I think it's the most watched TV show by audience numbers here, where I will be judged, where I will be critiqued, where I will be celebrated, all the things. And for me, that is such a deep opportunity to really just get exposure therapy to the human condition and really start to be more and more exposed at higher and more greater levels of people's opinions, judgments, whether good or bad, and how I can move through and into those and just keep watching myself of my own responses and my own reactions.
Well, it's that. It's like the filming is over. The journey is really only just beginning.
Yeah.
Because there's so many different aspects to it that you're going to get to experience, man. And it's a beautiful thing. It's going to be a beautiful thing to watch, because it's like, even myself, I'm so deeply in your life, but I don't even know what happened on the show, or even how it turned out. Like, totally. They have everything so tied down. So like, I'll have to view the show to have a greater understanding of what's actually happened. Yeah,
I mean, that's it. But I mean, I reflect on everything in my life, and reflecting on this. I was actually speaking to another cast member last week, actually, and because we were both in this article that got put out by The Edge, and they were kind of like deep digging, and I just checked in. I was like, "Hey man, are you okay? Like, all good?" He's like, "Yeah, no, I'm fine." And I said, he goes, like, obviously you've been in the light a little bit more and kind of deal with it, like you know. And I just said, honestly, man, how I'm viewing this, it's just like I'm watching a comedy show, or I'm watching a show where I am a character. And because, I mean, this is something that a lot of people ask me, like, "Oh, are you afraid of the edit or this and that?" Look, the edit can do everything, but you still ultimately say all the things that you say.
Totally.
I know I'm wholeheartedly sitting here going, I'm not I don't talk badly about women. I don't, I'm a really authentic person. Totally. Yes, I'm direct and I say things that's on my mind or on my heart and things like that. But there is not one instance where I'm putting people down. There's not one instance where I'm avoiding a reflection. Even if every part of me thinks it's wrong, I'm like, okay, well, what's to look at here? Yeah. So it really did humble me. Yeah. So am I afraid of the edit? No, I'm not, because you would only be afraid of the edit if there were parts of yourself you didn't know. Yeah.
Or there's things that you regretted doing, saying, or being. Yeah. And it's like, well, when you look at it, it's like the other Married at First Sights, they chaotic. Absolutely chaotic.
I've never even watched the show before I even got on it. And then after we finished filming, I watched a couple of episodes of the Australian one. I was like, Jesus, like, holy shit! After being through all of that, and I know the length and the times, and they set it up really psychologically for you to like draw more emotion. I understand that. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing.
It's still a television show at the end of the day, right?
I saw it for what it was, but I could see how they got pushed a lot more than what we did. And when we first started filming, Warner Brothers were like, no, we do it different here in New Zealand. We generally want people, like, New Zealand audiences want to see other Kiwis genuinely find a partner and love and have the fairy tale and all of that. I mean, there's obviously going to be drama. There's going to be, of course there is.
There is. Every relationship would have drama. If you filmed someone in a relationship for a month, you would find drama. Yeah. And everything. You would be able to create it because life is full of it.
Yeah.
And these micro moments that are then captured on camera, they seem different or bigger than they are. But then, to be honest, it probably is a reflection of what's actually happening in the moment. Correct. You just don't have the ability to go back and see it. Yeah. Yeah, or have someone like pull you aside and break it down and have meetings and conversations and everything, right? And I mean, that's a beautiful thing, because imagine if we all had someone that we could go to in a relationship, like a relationship counselor, right? Where you actually had the opportunity to go in and get feedback on what's going on.
Totally.
It would be a beautiful life, because there's so much opportunity for growth, because you're going, like, it's hard to see the picture when you're inside the frame, Now you're going to be able to look at the picture.
100%. And it was a beautiful dance. So the edit will be the edit. They can only put so much footage into a certain amount of time that they put in there. So there's lots that they cut out, and obviously they'll create storylines. But when you're in this process, my personal view on this is it just magnifies parts of yourself, and then the storyline becomes like, imagine your whole day, and imagine if somebody just picks a thread of your day and they missed out everything else, right? We contextualize everything around us to create a fundamental reality of ourselves, and we balance ourselves and we do all of that. But imagine Imagine if there was just one aspect of your day, of your life, and it was to do with relationships, which is the most, in most people's cases, the most emotionally turmoil part of your life, because again, you're being seen by someone and seeing and all of this. So imagine if that was just the highlight, and that's all you could see. That's kind of how it's reflected on camera. So they can obviously move and add different facial reactions and things like that to change and skew a sentence or a meaning of it. But ultimately, you say what you say, and if they're going to create a thread around it, you just don't have any of the other noise around it of somebody else's personality to be like, well, he's a bit of an asshole, but do you know what? He gives to charity, or do you know what? He hugs a lot of people. It's like, no, they just saw me like, there's a couple of times you're a bit of an asshole, and that's all they see. So they create the judgment off that. And so that's what I'm more expecting. But, again, I'm not...
Mate, I'm sure a lot of people are going to fall in love with you. They'll be like, you know what? This guy, he's warm.
Well,
lovely.
I tried, man. That's ultimately what I was on there. I tried. I really did try. And...
you were there for love, Yeah,
I was.
You were there for love, brother. And and as you say, that's actually always been your driver deep down, was to go on there for love.
It was.
Because it's a pursuit,
Yeah, and it's been a pursuit leading up to that.
Yeah,
and I
totally.
can look at that. I'm like, that's my integrity, because that's why I took it into that.
100%.
There's already rumblings from other people and different things. They're like, oh, he got on TV just to promote his business and his company, and so you know what? I'm going to front that right now. It's like, that was not my main point. That was not my prerogative. That was not my integral leading essence into the show. 100%. Now, am I a smart opportunist person and I can see opportunity where there is? Absolutely. Do you know what? 100%. Mm-hmm. If you try to pull somebody down for creating more opportunity with an opportunity, that says more about you than the person you're trying to bring down.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
So it's like, cool. I'm going to be on a show where I've got more sets of eyes on me than I ever have.
Yep.
Okay, great. I'm very authentic in myself. There's going to be some people who are going to dislike me. There's going to be some people that love me. But that's just how I show up in life anyways. This is just going to be on a magnified version.
Totally.
Now, post the filming and all that coming up, am I going to be making sure that our authentic brand gets pushed out there as hard as we can, because our mission is to really help as many people as possible? Then fucking A. Totally. I'm not out there selling vacuum cleaners, and I'm not trying to,
use cars. Yeah, we got like high-end quality products.
Of course I'm going to use this opportunity now to put out there on such a big scale something that we've created that genuinely helps people, for them to get into more positions of authenticity in their self, so they can just be who they want to be
100%.
And who they choose to be.
Totally.
So I'm fine with that. You know what? People want to rip me down for that. Great. That's all good.
Yeah.
Cool. That's on you. Because there's nothing to do with me.
You can't put someone down for like truly wanting the best for others. Absolutely. And that really is what the brand is about. You know, whenever we talk to people about it, that's what it goes back to. Yeah. It's like, well, people talk to us about niches all the time. We're like, well, you've bought our product. Tell us about you. What are you going through?
Yeah, reflect me.
Yeah. Because we could be like 35 this time. We're like, no, it's like, it's the range of people that are being drawn to the brand, and the people that we're supporting are so diverse. Yeah. And I always just say, they're just normal New Zealanders.
New Zealanders.
We're out there and everything like that, but it's like the tools we get support other people to implement. They're simple, they're easy, they're related to the person and what they're struggling and what they're going through,
Yeah, and our mission is, it's ultimately the people that are sitting and watching this TV show, they're the ones we want to reach.
Totally.
Because they're the ones that in our experience have the most stress.
Yeah.
They are tired.
They don't think they're doing enough, even though they're getting to the gym as much as they can.
Yep.
They're worried about sleep. They're struggling with their relationships and being able to communicate. Like it's the real life people that we're here to support.
Yeah, 100%. And going through this experiment, and because it is an experiment, going through this, I have so much more empathy for people in relationships. I have so much more empathy. I can speak to people. I mean, even breathwork clients now, it's like there's even just a shift, and I'm like, okay, well, let's just sit with that. Like, what actually is that? That's to do with you, So, that's just an added bonus and side effect of being courageous enough to go and step into this realm.
Totally.
Because it is fucking courageous.
So
man.
what you're saying, Mike, is you're not going to change yourself as the show comes out. You're just going to keep showing up as you.
Absolutely.
Sounds great.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
what we're here for.
Yeah, it's all we're here for. Yeah, and this is why I think a lot more of the media, A, because I have been on another show before, and B, because the way in which I and we show up is, for most people, it's a little bit more unique. Like it's a little bit more confronting when you see a human in their power, and you see a human just trying things, and see a human failing in public forums and being like, "That's okay.
Yeah, we're willing."
I feel a little wounded, but that ain't going to define me, and I'm going to move on because
100%.
the wins are coming, because that's ultimately it, and it's not being so bogged down into like, oh God, I did this, and so there will be times where I'll watch. And look, this is actually, they told me it's going to be on 3 times a week for an hour and a half. I'm like, God, I ain't got time to watch that. But I'll do my best. I mean, we still have to buy a TV as well. Like, we don't have a damn TV. Like, far out. So, but I think, and this is coming from the network when I had a meeting with them about a week or 2 ago. She goes, you're just unique. You're a little bit odd, and I'm like, yeah, but they're kind of like, I'm okay with that. Like, I own that, and it's going to draw more people because they're going to be more intrigued. And they're like, so it's just waiting for that wave that will come, and it will die, because as everything does.
And then you'll have people coming up to you 4 years later in Expo and be like,
"You're that guy.
I've seen you on The Apprentice.
Yeah.
I've seen you on Maths."
Yeah. But there's also another frame. Like, I could be ridiculed. I could be, spat at in the street, being like, "You just got on another TV show for your own personal self," and I'll be like, "Hey, do you know what? No, I didn't."
Look. We all do everything for our own personal self.
Totally.
Everything. Every
sure.
choice you make is on your own personal self. Even if it's a choice based on, like, for someone else, it is always going to benefit you.
Yep. I agree.
And if anyone says anything outside of that, then they're delusional.
Yeah.
Because we're all selfish creatures.
Projecting your judgment of self onto me.
100%. It's like, I do things for my wife so that she stays my wife.
Yeah. Totally
Ultimately, it makes her happy, but then I get the benefit of her staying my wife.
You like having this hot crazy Brazilian wife, and you got to do a few things to keep her
in line.
keep her happy.
Well, actually, she keeps me in line.
Look, she keeps both of us in line.
For sure.
Anyways.
But that is love, my friend.
That is love.
That is love.
That is love.
Allowing someone to keep you in line.
Yeah. As long as there's a balance in there, right?
Yeah.
There's the sheep and the wolf. As long as when you feel like you're a little bit more one energy, like, all right, I need to be a little bit more my wolf, or I need a little bit more my sheep. And as you say so poetically, it's like there's no line, there's no place where it starts and finishes. There is just is, and the being and feeling of it. And if you're feeling a little bit weighted between of one more, then that's probably where you are. So start moving towards the other, and it's actually in the search for the equilibrium is where you find equilibrium. It's not being in the equilibrium. It's the lie.
It's the lie. It's the lie. It'll never just be one thing. There's polarity in everything, and we always dance through it all.
Yeah.
Well, brother.
Another good thing about Married at First Sight, I got an international holiday. We had a honeymoon.
There you go.
Yeah. It was warm. There was sun. We went on beautiful dates. Yeah. Got to do some cool experiences.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
It would have been amazing.
It was so much fun, and to my Married at First Sight wife, she was epic too, right? Like, honestly, like, the courage to step into that, like, will forever have my respect to every single person that was on the show with me and has done other ones. They you'll have my ultimate respect and love, because it's such a curious and interesting thing to do. So you don't meet the person. Like, there's no fake TV there. Like, you don't meet the person until you're all dressed up in your wedding gears and they walk up and you're like, hey, you've seen them for the first time. And you're like, hey, hello, I'm Michael. And they introduce themselves. And, I mean, the marriage itself isn't legal. You go through a ceremony but I think everybody probably knows that. But you switch some rings and you go through it all. I mean, there's an energy behind it, man. Like, and it was super interesting. Really,
well, there's still vows, and they call them vows for a reason.
Yeah. We write our own vows, and I got to write some beautiful vows, and because you're writing about well, this is me personally. I wrote about the essence of the relationship rather than to the person, and I shared a little bit about myself. Mm-hmm. And then I finished off with a beautiful poem, mm-hmm. which I love to write. And it was very meaningful. Like, you can say it's all, reality TV and all this and that, but there's still human aspects to it. It's all human.
Yeah, for sure.
Like...
You're not actors.
No, we're still two nervous people, although we were both pretty calm, actually. We were both all right. But you're still deep saying, you're like, oh, all right, what am I doing? Like, well, here I am, and there's 7 cameras all in front of you, capturing every moment that you're doing. And so you're still two people, how to be there. And what I was really going through was, how can I make this feel as safe as possible? How can I project my energy in this moment where only a few words could be tapped and a few words could be said?
So how do you capture the essence of it?
Yeah.
When you've actually never experienced or smelt it.
And then what I dropped into was my own story of what married life is. You had this flip-flopping, like, because you get married, then you go and do all the other things you have to watch, but but then you're straight in living with each other from that night. Straight in, you're in the same bed if you choose to, or however you want to work it out. So you have to work out all these little things, and so you have to keep reflecting on yourself of being like, right, well, I came here to go all in on this. We've ultimately got married. I've just met this person. Boundaries. What are they? What do they look like? How do I just show up myself authentically? But then also as well, like, maybe a little less too. There's all these things that you have to really go into.
And you got to figure it out in the moment.
You've got to figure it out. So there's like three different games going on. Not games, shows. What do you want to call experiments? There's the one that's filmed and on camera, and then having to navigate that experience of, if you've ever been in front of the camera, like, trying to be authentic makes you inauthentic. It's really an interesting dance. It really is. But then also knowing you're still on a TV show, and it's like, okay, well, it's not like I need to give something, but I need to dig deeper to be able to get into my essence. I mean, every single morning is a camera there. How are you feeling, Mike? How are you feeling? How are you feeling? How are you feeling? How are you feeling? And it drives you to just, like, dig deeper. How am I feeling? What is that feeling? What is that like?
Am I actually feeling it, or have I just said it because I've run out of things to say?
It was super. Like, I know I've said interesting a lot today, but I'm so curious about life, and there was so much that piqued my curiosity about this. And so then there's the dance with your partner when there's no cameras around. You're just in the space with each other. You're learning about each other. You're navigating that, and you're going through things. And then the third one is all the other contenders, all the other cast members, going through their relationships, and then the connections of them within that container, and then that's that container, and then how you're navigating that, and all of that. So there's lots going on, and even just sitting here talking about it now, like, it lights me up, because I actually really love this shit, man. I love it, like, there are times I didn't get things right, but that's fucking human, and I was like, well, and I was always willing to lay on my sword, I'm like, cool, like, let's discuss it, let's go into that, so yet to be revealed. I think it comes out
25th.
The 26th, Sunday the 26th at 7 p.m. on Channel 3.
There you go.
So that'll be fun to experience that, but ultimately it was a great experience. There was lots to take away from it. It's going to be a fun dance over the next kind of 6 to 8 weeks, however long it gets played for.
Totally.
And I just take it all with a grain of salt, and everything. I mean, I'm literally about to get off the podcast now and go and do an interview to one of the magazines, and that's all starting to roll now. And It is what it is.
The rest is loading, The rest is loading. The rest is buffering. The rest will develop from the 26th of May onward, realistically, right?
Yeah, it will. And you'll see. I mean, I'm not that way. We filmed this quite a while back, and so since then, I'm not even that person anymore. None of us are that person anymore.
Months and months ago.
Yeah. So
beautiful.
I'll be like, hey, cool. I get to. I mean, it's just like this podcast. If we go and actually reflect back on our episodes, we're like, we can
see
feel
the changes
that
in
person
yourself.
of where we were, and so it's just a really cool, flag in the sand of where we were in that time. Our themes that we talk about are generally themes that are popping up in our life. So we're like, let's unpack those.
Yeah.
So this will just be another one of that, but on a far more mainstream and public scale. And there'll be things that I can learn. There'll be reflections that I'll be able to still sit and be like, oh, that's actually something I didn't notice about myself of what I'm doing. Cool, let me look at that. Let me reflect that. So for me...
And you'll see it different to what other people see it as well.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so... But it's been fun to be able to talk about it now. I'm sure we'll revisit it a few times and be able to talk about the actual events and my pullings of that. But I think we've done pretty well today, man, to really skirt the edges... of what it is, and just talk about my experience in it rather than of it.
Yeah.
What's the great quote? Be in the world, not of the world.
Be in the world, not of the world.
I love that. So keep listening. Yeah. But yeah, if you've been listening along, thank you so much.
Hey, look, some people might be here just because of maths.
Maybe.
So if you are, head on back to episode 1, listen all the way through, you will get a greater understanding of Michael Craig Wilson. And the way he is, the way in which he shows up.
And Ryan John Bennett,
that's it.
Someone actually asked me the other day. No, it was actually a reporter from one of the other articles that I did an interview on. And they were talking about kind of like, tell us one thing no one knows about yourself. I sat there and I was like,
ain't much.
Do you know what? There ain't nothing. And I just said, look, jump onto the podcast if you ever want to know something, because there's literally everything is laid out there about.
It's like a live therapy session each week.
And I think that's a real superpower stepping into this public realm.
Yeah.
Because it's like there's no part of myself or ourselves that are hidden.
Yeah, and it's one of those interesting things with podcasts, like Instagram, things like that. You can see people that are engaging with you.
Yeah.
You can't see the people that engage with your podcast. You can see the number of people that view it, but you don't actually know who's listened to it.
No.
So it's really interesting. So it's like you have a conversation with people, and then you're like, damn, you actually know something about me that I've never spoken to you about in person, but you've clearly listened.
Yep.
It's really interesting. I was having a conversation the other day, and someone went deep into it, and I was like, oh, that's trippy. You forget that. You forget that.
Well, we do, because for me, what this is now is we move into it, we go through it, and then it's done.
Process.
And then it's such a processing for us.
Totally.
And it's amazing. It's like, cool, we'll leave it out there. I feel better every single time that I do it.
Totally.
And then it's just left there. And I might listen to it when we launch on a Thursday. I might not.
And then it's interesting as well, because like we sit down and we talk for an hour and a half straight in this, and then we'll drive to Wellington, and it'll be 8 hours of just silence. Just,
I love it.
As is life.
We are just running our human experience gauntlet, brother, in all its form, not having to be anywhere. I'd like to make a little mention as well. Let's do this. In 3 weeks' time, there's Open World Theatre from Atlas Talisman. If you want to go back to episode 10, I think it is, where we did an interview with Atlas, I'd love to give him some support. So he's running an Open World Theatre workshop for 2 days in Tauranga on the 8th and 9th of June. And if you want some details there, I'll put it in the show notes. But if you really want to move into the aspect of more authenticity, like finding your edges in the human experience, seeking like aliveness in moments where you probably didn't think there were, like all of it. Like I am totally underselling it here, but it is a hell of an experience. And even just the teachings we did with them a couple of years ago, like some of those still prevalent are rolling in all of our stuff. So I'm really looking forward to that. So I'd love to give the brothers some love. Jump on to openworldtheatre.com. Have a click at the link below. Go and get your tickets and come and join us there. Come over play. It'll be fun.
See what it's all about. And you just look at life in a completely different way after an experience like that.
Yeah, you too might go onto a maths and just go and do some open world theatre on maths.
There we
just
go.
being who you want to be. We love you all, listeners. Thank you. It was an exciting one. I like that.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah,
it was fun to navigate and like to fully go into something, but know that there's a line that you cannot cross.
Yeah.
Normally there's no line.
Normally there's not. Yeah, that's good. But we love y'all. We'll be here same bat time, same bat channel next week. We launch every Thursday, and we'll definitely get some more guests on coming up soon.
Totally.
Love
Love you, everybody.